You ready, Nick? Let's get him.
It's a good one, though. Look how fat this one was.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed that the later issues got really, really skinny.
Yes.
What was that attributed to?
Advertising.
Okay.
Advertising. The issues got smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You know, this was like the height of like the money coming in. So that's why you see
That's why it's so big.
so thick, because it's all the ads and stuff.
Yeah.
By the time we got to what's this? I left in 2005 the first time.
Yeah.
This October 22. This was like the second best selling issue of all time.
Which one? You hold it up, please.
Oh, it's a lot of. This one, that was the second
Murder
best.
Inc.
Yeah, that one was like the second best selling issue
of all time. Can you recall what was the top selling issue of all time?
Rocafella.
With all of them on there, or just the whole rock?
With the Rocafella. It was two different covers, and it was, I'm not gonna call him Hove because it's Jay-Z.
Okay, Jay-Z. That's fine.
I mean, I never really did, right? It's just I don't know.
How long was
Hove means God, right?
Absolutely, but in his case, he's referencing to being the God himself.
Yeah, I want to be more religious and be respectful to like God.
Got you.
So I'm not gonna call him Hove.
All right.
But yes, the Rocafella issue
was the all-time best.
That was the best-selling issue of all time.
Can you give an approximate date or year that issue?
That was the issue before this one. It was September 2002. Okay. It was a good time.
How long was your tenure at Source Magazine?
So I was at the Source. Okay, so I went to work there January 2000, and then I stayed there till March 2005. But I wrote for the Source Magazine for a couple years before I was the editor-in-chief. So okay, yeah, I was there. I feel like I've been at the Source forever though. Like people still call me and pitch me stories online. I'm like, I haven't been there since 2013, right? So I'm just kind of I've always really just been affiliated with the brand. It's like a part of my history.
Great. The Source Magazine is also a part of Gully TV history. Prior to you, I interviewed Andre Leroy Davis, who did the last word.
The last word for many years. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a book out, Andre Leroy Davis. I think he did a book of all his illustrations, right? Of all his cartoons.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yep.
That's what's up.
Yep. That's some legendary stuff right there. That's this in the back, the last word.
Yeah.
Those cartoons. So I'm probably holding it up wrong. It was a good one.
I like how this interview began organically, and it really worked out that you was able to pick up those magazines and give me some.
Yeah, because I saw them over there, so I was like, oh, see, I always look also because I don't have all of them.
Okay.
Because I didn't get to leave nicely and take my stuff. I was just, I was told don't come back. Right. You fired. Right. So when I left, all of my stuff was at the magazine. And my assistant at the time, the next day, just brought me a box of stuff that I was like, bring this, bring that. Like, so I had plaques up there that I never got. I had like all types of, just like promo items that you get. Yeah, throughout the years, my CD collection, like there was a whole bunch of stuff that I left up there. So I didn't have every issue.
Right.
So the issues I have at home are scattered. So I've met people along the way that have said they collect the magazine and they have like all these, like all of the issues. But I
pulled
still
that from my personal collection.
Yeah.
A lot of those, probably all of those came from prison. When I left the prison system, and when anybody was leaving the prison system back then, they would just leave behind clothes, cosmetics. They didn't leave the Source.
They took the Source with them, right?
You took that shit with you.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff in here that I know that I like wrote, a lot of this stuff is just, for me, it's lost. Like I can't find the stuff that I actually wrote because I didn't go home with all of the issues, So it's interesting. Whenever I see them, especially the old ones, I like to pick them up and,
Right. Of your time spent as an editor at the Source, did
Yep.
you have any standout articles that you worked on?
When I was at the Source, there were I wrote so many articles. Like it's hard to say like what would your standout articles be. Like I did so many. Like every month for like if I'm there 5 years, right? Because I was
Right.
there 2000 2005 straight.
Right.
Like every month I was writing. I didn't want to just edit. I wanted to write. I wanted to do interviews. So
Okay.
every month I was writing stuff. So like a lot of people ask me that question and I'm like, I don't know. But you know, like I did things that I think I remember that I remember when I was doing them, picking certain articles. Like I wanted to do the article on KRS-One because when I came up, that was somebody who I looked up to, right? And so LL Cool J, like those are the articles I wanted to write. Those are the interviews I wanted to write. But it's interesting because like the people who were at their height during my tenure, I didn't look at it like that back then.
Right.
Now I could look back and be like, oh, you did articles on everyone, right?
Yeah.
But back then when I was there, it was just kind of like people were coming out with their music. It's like, okay, we're going to do a story on this one and that one. And I never really looked at it like that. Like nowadays, people are like, oh, you wrote that story? I'd be like, oh, I wrote that story. Like I was talking about BMF recently. And I have found a little cassette of the interview I did. And when I did that story, I wrote it for the magazine. But back then, people didn't really, it wasn't as big as it is now, right?
Yeah.
Like the legacy that they have and the TV show and all that. So to be able to say, oh, I wrote a story on BMF way before anybody really, you know, if you weren't in the streets, you didn't know. But it was like doing an article like that. And then, you know, that's more mainstream.
Yeah.
Right. So like I did a lot of different stories that I felt like were ahead of their time, let's just say. Like I did the Foxy Brown cover and people always reference that one of her with the log because it was when she put out the album Broken Silence.
Got it.
So like that was a big deal because she hadn't spoken for a long time.
Right.
I did that interview. I did the Mace cover story when he came back.
When you say
after he retired. I remember when Mace retired, I did that cover story after when he came back into the game. I did like just off the top of my head, I can't even. I'm like, what stories you wrote? Can't even remember. It feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
It was like it's been 25 years since I first started there.
25 years.
Yep.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you, I picked up one of those copies and I kind of like was flipping through it before you got here. I wanted to know if you had any input on the 5-mic system.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's great. How did y'all establish what was dope?
What a 5-mic system was. 5-mic was a committee, and that's something I inherited when I got to the magazine because it was already in place.
Mm-hmm.
So the editors before I got there, years before I got there, had established a 5-mic rating system. And when you got to the magazine, when you were in the music department, that was something you were super excited about, right? Like because it was something still to this day to be able to say you had a 5-mic album, right? It was respected. The magazine was credible, but you know, there wasn't a lot of times people associated the person that wrote the review with how many mics they got. There was actually a committee, like you would put your vote down and then the person who wrote the review would vote.
Right.
And then the entire music department. So it was like 5-6 people. Then you had to, if you said it was a 5-mic album, then you had to go, you know, and get like Dave and Ray to okay that it was 5 mics. So that and it was a tough system because we also made sure regionally we were covered. So being that we were all from New York, a lot of times we all had like this similar sort of New York ear, right? You know what I mean? Like we gravitated more towards that sound. So we had people like our West Coast editors would vote on albums, our Southern correspondents. Like we made sure we had a committee that could balance that out.
I felt that it had to be a panel of some type.
Absolutely.
I just felt that.
Absolutely. There was never one person that was giving them. I don't know. Even maybe when they first started, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
We organically started this interview. I appreciate if you introduce yourself to my viewers.
Oh, sure. My name is Kim Osario. Hey.
And you are.
Oh, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. Who am I? I'm a hip hop journalist.
Yeah.
I am an executive producer. I am a loudmouth. I'm a Gemini. I do a lot of podcasting these days. I've been in media, in hip hop media, for a very long time.
Right.
And that means across the board. So like, I started in print, but then I went over to TV. So like, it's just something that, you know, I've had to evolve with the times.
Right.
And for a little while, or a lot of while, depending on how you look at it,
right.
I was really in the background. So I didn't stay in a place where people thought that I was in hip hop media anymore. They were like, "Oh, what happened to the girl that used to be the editor?" Like, I was working for television behind the scenes for a minute, and I was doing, whether it's reality TV, documentary, I was doing a lot of that. I just recently started to show myself again.
Gotcha.
But it's always been covering hip hop.
Got it. How did you land the gig at Source Magazine?
How did I get the job at the Source? So Elliot Wilson, I think, might have been the first person who gave me an assignment for the Source. Nope, I'm lying. It was either Elliot or Riggs. And that's how I started writing for the Source. At the time, I had been freelancing for a number of different magazines. And Carlito was actually the one that hired me. Carlito, when he got the editor-in-chief job, he hired me as an associate music editor. But I was actually coming from XXL.
Is that right?
I probably am. I probably had the shortest stint in XXL history. I went there for 1 month,
right,
and then I left because I got the job at the Source. So
this
Elliot hired me to be the lifestyle editor at XXL, and I was really more music. And when the Source job opened up, I jumped ship so fast, I was out of there. I wanted to be at the Source.
Is there any truth that the people who launched XXL were formerly affiliated with Source Magazine at some point?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I don't really know this story, especially with my memory. I'm like, I can't even remember anything. I can't remember what I ate yesterday. But yes, the magazine was started, I believe, from some of the former editors of the Source. So they left. There was a big walkout in the Source history, and some of those editors, and I'm not going to name them only because, and I do know some of their names, but I'll be leaving someone out and I'll be getting the history wrong. I'm not doing that. The people get so sensitive when stuff comes out online. So, but they were former editors of the Source that left over and started XXL. There was a couple of them. So that's why I don't want to name names, because I'll leave someone out and then they'll be like, she left me out. I'm not doing that. And they started the magazine. But I think I will give Elliot his credit when it comes to taking XXL to that next level, because they were always under the Source magazine.
Definitely.
And when I got to be the editor-in-chief, he was the editor-in-chief of XXL. And then things got really, really competitive. And the first issue that ever outsold the Source at XXL was when 50 Dre and Eminem decided to go over there in the midst of that drama that we had.
Yeah.
That was the first issue that ever outsold the Source. Every month the Source outsold XXL. And then we fell out with them. Everybody knows the history. I'm not going to get into it. It's boring to me now to talk about it.
Right.
But that issue, they went and they took their story and their cover story to XXL, and that issue outsold the Source magazine that month.
Right.
So, yep.
Okay.
Kudos to them for doing what they wanted to do.
A writer, what type of educational background did you have? I'm told that you're an attorney.
I had a different path.
Okay.
So when I started, I didn't think that being a hip hop writer was going to sustain. So actually in 2025, I'm still shocked. Like, you still get money out here? Like, it's crazy. Because a lot of people have transitioned. Back then, I didn't look at it like it would be a career. I looked at it as I loved to write and I loved hip hop and I wanted to do that. But I was like, well, you guys have a real career. So I went to law school and I graduated law school. But when I graduated law school, that was when I got the job at XXL. And then because I was working for a different company at the time, I had a job in music software, but it was very, it really shaped a lot of my knowledge because I worked at this other job, this company Muse from 94 to 99. And it was all about entering data from CD liner notes. So I had to like study all of that stuff. So that's how I knew all the producers, the engineer, like where the music was recorded. Like I was the only hip hop person at that company. So it just turned out that everything that came out between 94 and 99, I was listening to just as a fan.
Okay.
And then I would take urban music, right? R&B, hip hop. I would take those albums and enter it into this database. And that database would go into the record stores. So that was my job. But I wanted to be at a magazine. And when I graduated law school, I ended up getting the job at XXL and then the Source. And then the rest was like, I never looked back. But you know, times are rough right now in hip hop media. Don't let no one fool you. Like, they're not getting as much money as they say they are. So I might, you know, sometimes be like,
so you need an online push. Gully TV Media, East Coast, West Coast, down south, uptown, downtown, Switzerland, the hottest in the business. Underground MCs. Need a push? Gully TV. Published authors. You need a push? Gully TV, your daily online source of hip-hop, sports, and fashion. The email is below. GullyTVBoss@gmail. Hit me up, I'll be there.
Yo, you know the vibes. Uncle Ralph McDaniels, Video Music Box, Lord Nez in the building.
Yeah, Queens, get the money, baby. Shout out to Gully TV, man.
Gully TV.
How you say, get your dribble right?
Get your dribble right.
Get your dribble right?
Right?
Ah!
Yeah.